Anthony, thanks for coming on to Here We Go.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I'm excited to talk to you because you're a first responder, specifically a fireman in recovery.
Yeah.
You've kind of had your own journey with two subjects that are pretty near and dear to my heart. Obviously, me being in recovery, and I have a son that's a firefighter with LA County.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about that. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So tell me just kind of a little overview about your career.
Yeah, you said firefighter and recovery. That's like an oxymoron, right. So I finished my career as a firefighter paramedic. I started being an EMT, and I worked on an ambulance, a 911 ambulance up in LA. So that was a little bit.
What part of LA was that?
We were around the city, so we were generally LA County, but the ambulance company we had they're nationwide. And so they had the contract for LA. So we were in South Bay, we were in Mid County to East County, but I mostly worked in the South Bay to like around the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what? So after that,
Yeah. So as the resume and the career progresses, I ended up getting picked up with the United States Forest Service. So I did my time as an EMT, right? And that's kind of natural. You go to get your EMT, and then you work on an ambulance to see what it's like. And so I did that, and I'm like, because I had some family in it, and I'm like, what do I do next? And they're like, go work as a seasonal wildland firefighter. And I'm like, okay, let me go see if I can do that. So I worked with the United States Forest Service down on the Cleveland National Forest in San Diego. So with that is the smallest forest with the most fire apparatus on it. So we're just ready.
What does that mean, the most fire apparatus?
Right. So we have the most fire engines. We have hotshot crews. Like we have multiple hotshot crews. We have the Laguna hotshots out there, who I got to work close with. And then as far as the hand crews that come on, we have tons of hand crews that are needed for some of those to scrape the brush away. So we have a clear line to draw the hose in to those wildland areas. So we're talking manpower, we're talking engines, we're talking buggies is what they're called, with the 25-man crew, hot shots or inmate crews, and kind of bring the world.
For people that don't know, what's a hot shot?
All right, so a hot shot is a highly trained and highly certified wildland firefighter that fights fire with tools.
Okay.
So these guys are beasts, and they are, like, as far as their endurance and their cardio, they're like woodsmen and firemen. They get out there and start cutting with chainsaws. They start using Pulaskis, which is like a fire axe, but there's like different sets of tools that they use to just clear debris and brush at any size, any kind of level, while fires are going.
Got it.
And so we either come behind them or we'll go in front of them, and then they'll cut around our hose. And it's an incredible thing just to see that we can't keep up with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
That's
they're
cool.
well trained.
All right. So then from there, what happened?
Yeah. So I was fortunate. It's like 5 to 7 years to get picked up with the fire department, and I got picked up in like 3. So after I did a little bit of time on an ambulance, a little bit of time in the Forest Service, and got some certifications there, the San Diego Federal Fire Department, which it's a part of the Department of Defense. So I was a civilian, but I got picked up on the naval base down in San Diego. So I was there. My station was MCRD, the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot, and our motto was, we protect those that save us, right? So it was kind of a weird dynamic, but I got to see the recruits start to develop into their boot camp into Marines.
Okay.
So that was my my home station there.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I did some years there, and our call volume wasn't that high, and I was still kind of in a Ricky rescue mode. Uh-huh. And so be careful what you wish for. I lateraled over into Riverside County Fire, CAL FIRE, and that was a lot. That was turning the burners up on high. I mean, we're trained for wildland. Not every firefighter is trained for wildland. We are. And then I ended up going to paramedic school, so I was on a medic squad as well. And and then having that municipal side where we're, a medical, dispatch, EMS.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fronts to handle on that. And then being state firefighters, we can go anywhere at any time when there's a good campaign fire burning, and we can be gone anywhere from 14 to, well, I've been gone for 30 days. And so it's an interesting run.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then is that where you finished up, was Riverside?
Yeah. So I finished up in Riverside in 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
What kind of family did you come from? Or
So, interesting dynamic. So we lived originally up in a ghetto suburb, El Monte, in the San Gabriel Valley in LA. And we would vacation down in South Orange County and the Dana Point area. After my grandpa passed, my whole side of my mom's family wanted to live down in that Dana Point, San Clemente area. So as a kid, I got kind of uprooted, and from going to that ghetto, kind of area that we were living in to a more affluent place was such a transition. Like, it was surfboards and skateboards and just a different way.
How old were you when that
growing up.
happened?
I was like 5th grade, 6th grade. Yeah.
Right.
It was like, and people didn't put gel in their hair. They just, they came straight out of the beach and just kind of waved it out and let it dry, and walking with bare feet, and just a real cool surfer mellow attitude that you see in Hollywood, how they perceive us now. I guess I can say us. I surf, so it was a real adjustment from that to that. And then some of my siblings stayed up in LA, so that got kind of split. So there was a lot of instability. And I'm going to cue into this because I know we'll get to it eventually, but that made a difference. Me being the youngest out of 4, there was so much instability with that major move, with the family being separated, and then mom remarries. It was like, just everybody just wait. Like the instability and being so young, I remember just getting angry and yelling at everybody that would listen. And being so little, I wasn't listened to. And so I shoved it down, and depression would set in. So I would either sleep a whole lot, or I would be awake and be gone and angry. And so that was kind of quite a bit of maybe even coming into EMS career of wanting to help and save.
So early on, you kind of struggled with some mental health stuff. Looking back on it, you're describing having depressive moments and having manic moments and things of that nature. You really didn't know that was going on at that point, but that's what was going on.
No, yeah. And that early, too, prescribed, some antidepressant medication early. And my body's super sensitive to any type, over-the-counters, whatever that looks like super sensitive. So when I started taking those, I tell my mom, hey, I don't know anything about medication, but you're having me take these, and I understand they're supposed to help, but I can't wake up. I can hear voices around me, but I can't wake up. And so they ended up removing me off of that, but there went my career on an antidepressant from such a young age.
Yeah.
So that was early.
And then what was high school life like for you? Did you have a plan to do this firefighter stuff, or you just cruising? Were you an athlete or what?
Yeah, I surfed. I still surf, skateboarded, snowboarded, super active, mountain biked. I always was outdoors, and living by the beach. It was just kind of normal. So, no, I think being a kid, everybody wanted to be a firefighter, right? And I thought, okay, well, I don't know if I have it. I don't. So I actually enlisted to the Marine Corps at 18.
Okay.
And so my mom, for the majority of my life, was a single mom. So she's like, I'm not having the baby of my family shipped off. So we did have some family, like I mentioned earlier, that was in the fire service. And so we were at a family get together, and I guess my mom had planned it, but there was a few of us family that were in the fire service coming around me and slipped me an envelope to look at, and they're like, hey, you don't have to go to the military. We can definitely like maybe baby step you in. And I'm like, I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I have that. I just didn't see, I just didn't see that in me. But overall, and back to the high school of it, yeah, I played football and baseball. I did well. I was looking to get scouted by the Angels. I was a small guy, but again, fury was in me, and so I pitched really hard and fast, and there was starting to develop me as a pitcher, and so that was fun. MVP, captain of my team, MVP wide receiver down in San Clemente, and I'm not bragging. It just was kind of. I think what ended up happening is that I was looking for approval elsewhere, and so not having dad around, I had to be the best. And I wanted to show dad that, you know what, dude, like you're not around, and I'm just going to show that I can do things without you.
Yeah.
I can be great without you. I'm going to achieve without you and show you what you're missing out on.
Kind of parented yourself as a man.
Yeah. Right. So, and had a lot of fun in high school. Like I said, sports, and ended up at 18 with my high school sweetheart. We had a daughter, so that was
while you were in high school.
Yeah, senior year. Okay. Yeah, so that was huge, and that was a game changer to like figure out what am I going to do, where am I at, where am I going, and then that's why I ended up going into enlisting in the Marine Corps.
So did you go in the Marine Corps? Or?
So no, it came down to the last minute. And, the recruiters were knocking on my door, and I just simply said, I'm not going to go, and left it at that. They really didn't pursue me of anything else. And then at that moment, I started to like enroll in EMT school and going through that. And that was.
So at 18 years old in high school, you started this
just
journey.
after, yeah.
Okay.
And it was, it's the list, right, to become a firefighter and build that resume. It's daunting, especially now with all the schooling. Like we were talking earlier, they're always one-upping, right? As firefighters, we're so competitive. And so back in the 80s, the major thing was to get your hazmat awareness and your hazmat operations certification, and then have your EMT. Like those were like the main things. Then the next thing was like everybody's going to get their paramedic. Then now you got to do that. Well, at that time, a lot of the departments were sending you and paying for it for paramedic school, which is expensive. And so people started getting them on their own. People started getting fire academies on their own. And even though the department's going to send you to theirs, people already came in with it. So it was just a lot of competitiveness, which again, I guess, trying to prove to dad, I can do something, I can be something. With, a daughter now in play, it was like, what am I going to do? And so I ended up, going to EMT school, and then it just started to grow from that to the ambulance, that to the Forest Service, that to professional firefighting. When
did you start struggling or dabbling with your addiction and your alcoholism? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. I want to say it's kind of always been there. High school was just fun, but I would say like early 20s to, well, I'm going to say this.
So in high school, you were just drinking or smoking pot or anything? Like
drinking. Yeah, smoking some pot.
Yeah.
Not heavily. Drinking was there, like, on the weekends and parties like that, but nothing out of the norm until I got into like early 20s where it was like, you know what? I need to start taking a look at some of this. And I would actually stop. Just reminding me, I actually stopped taking the antidepressant so that I could drink. I hated being a slave to the pill. That was my thought. And I just would stop. And when I would stop, self-medicating would just rise, right? So to bad ways. So I noticed there was a major clash between the way I drank and the job I was doing. I was actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor. We were on a major wildland campaign fire, and this, I think, 2007 through 2009. The state was just burning, right? And so we didn't have enough manpower, we didn't have enough equipment, we didn't have enough apparatus. So we had like Oregon coming in, Vegas coming in, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas. It was just all hands on deck. Usually they give you like a time frame when you're on a fire of like, hey, you're going to work 12 hours on and then come off for 12, or you're going to work 24 and then come off 24. They just basically said, take everything like take the Gatorades and the foods and the MREs, ready to eat meals, you know? So take everything you have. We don't know when you're coming back. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, fuck, okay, well, let's start loading the engine up. And for whatever reason, I ended up calling my daughter, telling her I loved her, called my family, called my brother, called my mom, and I said, I love you guys. It was just, I remember we were on a hill, and they actually said, we're not going to pull hose this time. We're going to use some fire tools and start scraping a line. And it was somewhere like on the south end, like Fallbrook, Camp Pendleton area, the region we were in. And I can see kind of the ocean a little bit. And then I stopped scraping the ground. And I looked up and I just did a 360 span. I'm like, holy shit. Captain was like, Firefighter Hernandez, what are you doing? And I'm like, not a damn thing. We're just surrounded.
Wow.
And I'm like, we probably need to, reassess our operations. And that's the beauty of the fire department. And like, we can come up to the captain, right? But ultimately the captain's going to give the directive of what he wants to see. But we're also educated enough that we're like, hey, we see something, let's take a look.
And they want to hear you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that. So anyway, we all reassessed and we're like, let's get this strike team out of here. A strike team is 5 engines and 1 battalion chief. So anyway, we reassessed and we got out of there, but there was so much happening. I didn't see a lot of death. I just saw a lot of destruction.
Right.
So like buildings blowing up. We had bulldozers trying to scrape, the brush out of the way to cut a line so that the fire was so erratic, creating its own weather pattern, that it was flying over us. Like just balls of fire would just fly out of the forest and over us, behind us, right? They call them spot fires. And so once it gets behind us, it's one rule. Like we're in a bad place, right? We got to, move. Our engine ended up getting burnt at the back end of it. We were getting like yelled at on our radio comms to get out of there. And I remember just being in a lot of smoke now that I look back at that time. And there was a church near us that said, hey, you can replenish like a little oasis amongst this fire, right, that we were on. And like, mind you, this is just a section of the fire, like the whole state's burning. So we walked into the church. My face was just ashed out, and I saw these eye drops, and I just remember just falling to my knees and throwing in my eyes, and just the relief of just like some clean air, and just being away from it for a minute. So back to the trouble that I thought after the 30 days we were out there, and again, not seeing death, nothing like that, just a lot of destruction and just being on that level of adrenaline for that long. I shut myself in my room for 3 days and just cried. And then I'm like, what the fuck? Like, dude, I got to pull this together. I really, like, there's what's wrong with me? There's something wrong. Like, I know I can do the job. I do the job. And I don't know what it is. And it scared me. But the thing is that I would go to the station and I would just kind of side-eye my firefighter or my captain, and they're going on the same calls as I am, and they're fine. So I guess I have to be fine. So I was, best of my ability, fine on the job, and started breaking down at home.
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors.
And how common do you think that is?
I mean,
Now that you know.
Well, you know what? Okay, more common than we think. More common than we think. Now that I'm kind of out here in a space, and I again appreciate you having me on to talk about some of these things. There's not a lot of us that are, but being in the mental health and being a first responder, that we get to start to connect to a lot more, and it's just so eye-opening. And one of the things I'm like, okay, so our number one cause of death is by suicide. And then I also look by suicide by how? And I just looked this up like a week or so ago. Alcohol. We go out with alcohol.
Wow.
That's our number one way for suicide. I tried to attempt suicide. It was my second time. And it was alcohol.
Just tried to drink yourself to death.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to go out my way.
Yeah.
I didn't know any other relief.
So back up to that story where you're crying in your room for 3 days. Did you feel like you could tell anybody, your mom, anybody, or did you just keep all that?
No, because, I'm a firefighter. You put the uniform on and there's a lot of bravado, a lot of pride in what you're doing and how you do it. And you're like, I'm fine. It's part of the job. Those are like the best comments ever. Well, I'm fine. I don't know how you do that, man. Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. It's part of the job. Right? And you just keep going. But I'm not going to tell mom. Mom's already worried. Right? And she knows that, as a kid, I like surf, I skate, I do a lot of action sports. So I'm already like this little adrenaline junkie. So I'm like, let's go, So no, I'm not trying to really tell anybody. So here's an interesting story. So that 3 days, yes, I was starting to question and then kind of went to denial. But I was at the fire station, and it was my day to cook. So my second day on, we're the cook, right? My, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and we set everything up. Well, I got a phone call from the person I was dating, and she was just kind of telling me some really explicit things that were hurtful, and I was late cooking breakfast. So my engineer came out, and he's like, Hernandez, what the fuck are you doing? And I turned around, and I had some tears in my eyes. And he's like, oh, okay. So he goes back in, and I'm like, I gotta go. Hung up the phone, walked into the station. All my guys are around the table, and they're like, hey, it's already taken care of. You're gonna go home today and take these days off that you're normally supposed to work. Take the days off that you already have, and maybe look, if you have some PTO, take some of that, and we'll come back. And I'm like, no, man, I'm good. They're like, no, you're not. Like, go take care of home. So I thought, okay, what a great bunch of guys. And so I went home. And when I came back, nothing in a relationship is going to be fixed in, 6-7 days.
Yeah.
So I come back. Another firefighter comes over to me, looks at me, and goes, listen, fucker, listen. You better be okay. You might not want to go home, but I do. All right? So clean your shit up. I don't even work with you. I'm relieving you. You're coming off the shift. I'm going on, and you're going home. But okay. I walk in. The engineer pulls me aside. He's like, look, a lot of guys are worried. They kind of don't want to work with you. You showed a tremendous side of weakness. We don't know what's happening.
Just because of that one.
Just the conversation.
Having some tears in your eyes. Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Your marriage is good, right? Everything's fine. And he's like, well, I'm just telling you what they say. And I'm like, do you say that? He's like, yeah, I think you probably should move stations. Just from that. So how in our culture, if we're gonna be like, hey man, like we would go to the bar or we would go to the captain's house and we barbecue and have some beers. And we would talk. We'd talk about the call, but we wouldn't talk about how the call impacted us. We don't have those skills because we don't. And as I was mentioning to James earlier, like, they taught us how to do the job well.
Right.
Very well.
You're highly trained.
Highly trained.
Yeah.
and consistently. And then you come back to the table after every call and you discuss it. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What should we do less? What could we do better? Again, that commitment to competition and best and and it's great to be around. It's giving me chills talking about it. Like of how better and more efficient and more productive and everything that we do can be more streamlined. And so, I was like, okay, I was taken back by that. And then I would have other individuals on different shifts come up to me and talk to me. And then now I was kind of like marked, and so it was kind of difficult. So Is
this when you're in Riverside?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I know we're jumping around a little bit.
No,
There's
it's
a
good.
lot of progression.
We're tracking, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I was like, okay. And by that time, I would come home from Riverside. By that time, from just being in my room for 3 days and crying and just being like, okay, I'm just going to shelve it and then move on, started to develop where I would come home in full dress uniform, out in my front yard, behind some bushes, and just drink by myself.
You're married. So
no,
you're
just
not
dating
married
a girl.
at that
Yeah,
time. Oh, you're just dating.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a long-term relationship, and I just hid. I couldn't, highly trained to save others, and I couldn't even save myself.
Yeah.
And I had so many things. I had the house and the cars and everything going on that you strive to achieve, and I couldn't have been in a more darker place. And then that wasn't shelved. That was like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because my whole life has been going to EMT school and working on an ambulance, and the other thing is, like, it starts to become your identity. My dad, right, who I didn't really have a relationship with, was all of a sudden proud. I'm proud of you, son. Whoa, that's major to me. No way, Dad. Really? Proud of you. And the family on that side's echoing, oh man, your dad just talks about you all the time. My son, the firefighter. Right? And then I get introduced as that. Oh, this is Anthony, the firefighter. Oh, meet my friend, he's a firefighter. And I'm like, Dad, I don't introduce you, Dad, he's the truck driver.
Right.
It's, and so the identity and everything in it, and, gets to you. And you're like, well, then what am I if I'm not that? So I need to maintain that at all costs, because it's been everything a part of my life, right? Yeah. Building it up and becoming a part of me and kind of taking me. So now the calls are starting to bother me. And I would, the hypervigilance, I didn't know that word. All of the training and then all of the calls started to play in my head where I couldn't shut it off when I came home. Like, we walked in this building, I'm looking at exits, I'm looking at how many people, I'm looking at where the fire extinguishers are.
You still do that?
I still do that. I'm looking at, like, who am I saving first, right?
Hope
Going
it was
by
me.
age, right? Well, I was going to say by age, to, deciphering age, and like, what am I going to use? And and so when I go to dinner with my wife, like, she knows I'm going to sit facing the exit. I'm going to be the first to run, like, if something occurs. Like, I'm playing it in my head already, and I can't shut it off. So when I would come home, and at this time, being single, like, I just couldn't shut it off. Like, it's the calls, it was just like the vibration in my head. The vibration was so, I could physically feel it. And it weighed on me, and it was painful. And I'm like, what do I do? No one's going to understand. No one's going to understand going on a decapitation. No one. No one's going to understand the eyes that were looking at me, decapped, body here, head there, car mangled. No one. Am I going to go with a therapist? Let's talk about it. Let's process that.
Right.
And then when you do tell those stories, the therapist is crying. The therapist has the jaw drop down to the floor. Next, give me another one.
Yeah.
Or give me more pills, or let me go drink. Because the guys aren't going to want to hear it, right? Or people will be like, what's the worst call? Okay.
Yeah.
Worst call medically? Worst call child? Worst call, like, what do you mean? Fire? Fatalities on a fire? Pulling skin off of a human body like chicken? Like, what do you mean worst call? And all these things start to just heighten, right? It wasn't like that I wasn't able to do that job, but like, it's when I would come home and it got quiet. So I needed my life to match the department. So I needed to stay at a very hypervigilant state because I didn't know how to transition. I didn't know how to acclimate. Because over those course of time, like, it just built to a place where there's no acclimation. It's all at 100 miles an hour. Downtimes when I pass out, if I do. And then insomnia kicks in. And now I'm an insomniac. And I'm just burning candles at both, trying to get to the station to get some rest or getting home to wherever I can. But everything is like, I'm going on trips or I'm going to go, a lot of us like buy some motorcycles, go skydiving, start to look at other adrenaline-seeking behaviors that can help fill that, because we can't coming home from a casualty call, and an hour later you're home, and the wife's like, okay, we got to pay some bills, and there's a birthday party we're going to tomorrow, so we're going to do that, and then I just cleaned the house, so I think that's okay. Oh, and then we have dinner with the Joneses tonight at 8. Like, well, wait, let me
Decompress for a minute. Yeah.
Right? The only time that they've ever really trained or asked about what we do to decompress is in our oral interview. Like, one question: what do you do to decompress?
That's on the way in.
That's it.
That's on the way in before you've even seen any of this stuff. You're like, you have no idea what you're getting ready to go through.
And we train for those questions, right? Automatic. Family is the most important. That's like my decompression right there, and I have a daughter, so I just love being around them. They really do calm me down, just to be around loved ones and family. I surf, I skateboard, I snowboard. You know what I mean? Like, you're just rattling it off.
You're rehearsing those interviews. Yeah,
you are.
That's a game.
Yeah. So there was none of that side of care, but that's when I couldn't turn it off. I was tired of going to places and then seeing certain things and like, okay, that could be an emergency or where's the fire extinguisher, where's like I said, the exits and the handicap spots and what's my demographic here, and like it just was always moving and going. And that's where I my first attempt was I tried to hang myself in my closet.
Did anybody find you?
So I came home and I didn't call anybody. And I didn't want anybody to know I was home. So, a loving mother, and she popped in, just random pop in, and found me, the belt and trying to just noose it, and pulled me down, and we cried. And I told her a little bit, because I didn't want to dump it. I didn't want to put whatever was in my head in hers. But we left it at that. We didn't really talk about therapy. We didn't talk about medication. We didn't talk about any type of help. And I wouldn't have known where to get it.
And so that incident stayed between you and her?
Yeah.
For a long time?
Yeah. When I left the department in 2020, as we know, 2020 for all of us was just this, major shit show.
World's falling apart,
yeah,
COVID, all
just
that
everything burning, right? Riots and people trying to get the stimulus package, and so 2020 non-COVID related. Mom ended up moving in with me, and I noticed she was having one morning signs of stroke, and I'm like, fuck. So I put her in the car and I rushed her to the ER, and so there was still some COVID restrictions. And with those complications, really drew out how bad it was for mom having that. So her younger brother, who was close to her and a father to me, asked if I could make arrangements for him to go see her. And the hospital thankfully obliged. So he went and saw her, and it just devastated him to see his older sister in such ways. He was an alcoholic and a loving man at the same time. And he retired via text to his company. I haven't really shared a lot of this. He retired through a text to his company that he spent 25 years with. Never answered any text from the company, to my knowledge. And grabbed a bottle, a big handle of vodka, and for a month, that's what he did. He passed away from alcoholism, just complete shutdown, just throwing up blood, and so just from seeing his sister. So that was 2020 July. 2 months later, mom dies, and we never told her about her brother. Trying to get mom better. They said there was like 70% capability to salvage mom. So with all that loss and no e-brake and no help, and I was retired by this time, holidays came, tried to pull through. And what ironic, in the beginning of that year, I had started a small group Bible study and leading this team and of individuals just to be in action of what it is to be a Christian. But I couldn't hold it together anymore, I think, after everything's said and done. So I figured I had struggled with depression long enough. Now I can add some PTSD to it. I can add alcoholism.
Do you feel like you retiring affected you because your identity was gone as well? Or?
Oh, major.
Yeah.
Major. It was major. I'm glad you brought that up. Sitting with my mom in the living room when I retired, I just, broke down, because it's like a sense of relief, and then a loss of that identity. So I'm like, what do I do now? Like, what am I? I'm like a washed up firefighter. What do I do now? And she told me, son, there's more than one way to save a life. You'll find it. And then I said, Mom, I feel lost. I feel lost. I don't know what direction. I don't know. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I still have it. It's in our home today. It says, just because your path looks different doesn't mean you're lost. And she was, she was amazing with the support she gave us kids, and never let up. So she was right there every step of the way through all of my falls, and so that was, what do I do now? Like, what do I even put on a resume? Like, where am I going to go to work? What am I going to do? So it was a very interesting, time. I had some things in order to where I'm like, okay, I got some time off and try to figure this thing out. So, but when all of that loss, that grief and loss happened, I was within 2020. That was it. So it was around. I think it was finally in February. I made a plan, intended to see it out. And I said, I'm not going to drink any water. I'm not going to eat any food. I know that sounds stupid, and it is stupid, but, I've been drinking all these years, so this is how I want to go out. This is how I want to do it. And the girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, stuck it through. Amazing woman. And my brother had moved in. There's just so much loss, right? Family trying to gather together. And so I guess they heard me stumbling around the house. And they ended up calling 911. And I seizured out in the ER. Apparently I seizured out 2 more times. And They had all sorts of tubes hooked up to me. I was on life support for 2 weeks. I was in the hospital for a month. I had to like relearn how to walk. I came out.
All from trying to kill yourself with alcohol.
Yeah. I came out, and it was, I think my wife says, like a week or two, and I was angry. I was angry at her because she got in the way. She got in the way.
Right.
And so I went back to drinking. Accidentally, somebody found a first responder treatment center. I don't know what made them look that up.
But you know who was that?
Yeah, so my buddy Julian. Julian's amazing, good heart, and he had helped my family in so many different ways during this process. He stayed with us, made sure I was safe as I was trying to look for help, or whatever that looked like. And so, 8 in the morning, my wife goes to work, and Julian's there with me, and drinking a beer first thing in the morning. And he's just starting to look through the internet, you know, and trying to see. He's like, "Hey, dude, I found a first responder treatment center." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here, dude! Like, stop messing with me! Like, we don't have anything like that. We didn't have peer support when I was in. Nothing. If you got in trouble, you went to the union. Union fought for your job, and then you jump through some hoops, and then you would keep your job. So, with that, like, I was like, "There's no way." So he ended up calling, and somebody answered. And through all this time, my wife just saw me drinking, but just sat with me. And she would just tell me all the time, like, no judgments. And she would just sit with me. She would see me more sober than more sober than the other day, or, you know, more sober than other days. She'd see me drunk, falling, and no judgments. Every now and then she would ask me, like, "Do you want to get help?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, where do I go?" You know? Because going to, 12-step rooms, I didn't see any firefighters. I didn't see any police officers. I alone again. So when my friend Julian found the treatment center, I was like, "No way." And my wife's like, "I'm going to pay for it." I had already expended everything. I had already relinquished everything I had. She's like, "If you want to go, I'll pay for it." And we went. It was crazy. Now, talking about treatment centers and what that looks like as far as on the first responder side, or just treatment centers in general, whether it be mental health or SUD. So this treatment center I went in for like co-occurring, and with PTSD, hypervigilance, the alcoholism, suicide, grief, loss. Like, I'm like, that's me. I'm like, they have names? I'm like, but I'm not like, a veteran of war. So right. I don't know, like, PTSD fits me, So I was like taken back. I'm like, I don't know if it's that serious with all of what went on.
You still minimized it.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if it's well, really? Like, I don't know about PTSD. I don't know about slapping that label on me. Just to know, like, and there was others in my profession that, they were. It was 2 other firefighters and a police officer. It was the startup of this first responder program, and there's 4 of us, friends to the day. They came to my wedding. That was a huge. We text all the time, like we're in a group text, serious stuff, sad stuff, advice, solution. So it's just having that connection, that support.
Yeah. So what was that like when you kind of realized, okay, it's okay to label all of this stuff and deal with it? Was that a relief, or?
Yeah, it was. It was a relief. It was. Because now we can start, working on it. Now let's start working. Like, okay, called hypervigilance. Wow. I mean, there's a blanket statement for PTSD, and okay, all right. So like, what do we do? Where do we go? Like, what does that look like? And then therapeutical modalities with EMDR. I'm like, no way. Like, what's that? Like, I didn't know they had that. And like sound baths and all these other cool, like, hippie shit coming out, like, that works. And I'm like, no, that is awesome. Like, and all these other things that I just started to run to, you know, and that's a big part, not only with my wife just sitting in the pit for a while with me, with that no judgment and just love. I've never seen that before. You know, a stranger, you know, and putting me through a treatment center, like, and then guys like me. I'm like, oh man, that gave me strength to see guys like me.
Yeah.
And then I can be in a room, because I can't talk about, you know, in an NA or AA meeting about the calls,
Right.
you know, but I can with them. And they're like, oh yeah, did you see this too? Or did it splatter here? Or where did it, like, how was it? Or was it on your gloves? Or like, we can talk like internally about like the know about, right? Of what those calls, like all the other like little things that stick.
The details.
The details that like, so it kind of empowered me to know that they were there and facing some things. Some things look different, but they were same, right? Like that oxymoron too. So it really empowered me to like move, keep moving, and keep finding, keep searching. There's got to be more, and there was. So after that treatment center overall gave me sobriety, and I'm grateful. But then I went to go get the EMDR. Then I went to go get transcendental meditation and that training. Then I went to go get neurofeedback. Then I through brain paint, and I also did another neurofeedback called Cereset, like cerebral reset. And then I went to go get hyperbaric chamber, like oxygen saturation. Then I went, and I just went. And so do a lot of those things today. It's I do breath works. Those are amazing. Those are like in my daily. So I had to put a lot of these things in place. So I go to those 12-step meetings, have a sponsor, and I work those steps. But I needed a little more on that mental health side. So then I started to do some other stuff, right? Like figuring out that I need to be grounding. I need to be, you know, for inflammation purposes and the help and healing that gives, right? Sticking your feet on grass for 45 minutes or more, getting in the ocean, getting in the sand, being on earth and having that time, the meditation and doing it in that transcendental like manner helps extremely well with just dealing with life. It's basically, it basically trains you with all the racing thoughts and emotions and feelings that are going on inside you and in your head to how to work through it. So when you're done meditating and you got to deal with life, you're on a calmer plate, you know, it's like, so it's kind of cool. Like I get, like when I meditate, I leave the doors and windows open. You know, animals come jump on me, or if I have a scratch, I itch it, and but I'm still in my mindset of the meditation, and allows me to go out and deal with life now.
Love it.
Yeah. So anyway,
I want to explore something, kind of back you
Yeah.
up a little bit. I want to talk about like the current state and just get your opinion and feedback for the culture for first responders. And when you were in that station, you just had a little bit of tears in your eyes. They wanted to run you off, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't okay. Do you feel like that's changed, and we've progressed with that? I mean, I know there's some of that still there. How do you feel like that is? Are you around it enough to even know, or?
Yeah, to have that pulse.
Yeah.
So we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. I think me and some of the other guys that are like forging forward to come up and talk and tell our stories and and what was then and what's now, and that there are possibilities, and it's okay to not be okay, and we are on medication. We see therapists. We also do some holistic means to get better. So I think that I think there was obviously a pushback, like, oh man, I wish this just stayed the same, and nobody, like, you don't show tears. You do the job. This is the job you signed up for. You do it and get out, keep your eyes and ears, open and your mouth shut, kind of like old school militant, and then now it's, I think that when that peer support program started coming, like, oh my God, here comes the peer support team again. Man, what are they doing? There's negative talk to it, pushback. I think now we're probably in a more familiar place that it's now recognized. Like, look, we have this, and it's here, and we're here for you. So I think with, I think the place now is kind of like, especially with the newer generation, they're more, in tune with their feelings than some of us older school cats. So I think that, I think it's not frowned upon as much. And as this older generation is now retiring, that it will get a whole lot better. As the culture starts to have this newer incoming that wants to talk about it, that wants to express
So most departments
themselves.
now have a peer support program.
Most of them do, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a trick. That is a trick. So I have a buddy. I'm not going to mention his name or what department, but I grew up with him, and he's here in Orange County. And so he had told me, I said, hey, what do you think about what I'm doing now? Helping. He's like, hey, it's all good, dude, but like, keep my name out of it. And, but why? So he said when they started to formulate their peer support program, their chief came to them and said, who wants to be a part of this? And my buddy said his first thought was, I don't want a fellow firefighter in my own department knowing what's happening with me. So there's the trick, right? So we think like sometimes that these peer support teams, and they're great. I'm glad we have them. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but like it's too familiar, right? So maybe have that peer support on the outside that if they don't want to talk, because there's some people that don't want to talk to therapists. They'd rather just talk to me, right? And talk, and I can help guide,
Like you said,
right?
Didn't you mention you talked to a therapist, you started crying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, how does that help?
It doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
So, so trying to find like, okay, is there somebody, that's outsourced that can connect? So yeah, so for the peer support programs, there's that dynamic that you battle, right? Like I know somebody in the peer support, or some people on the peer support don't have the lived experience of like battling, mental health or an addiction or something to that, or PTSD, and they're on there and they don't know what to do. They're just trying to help, which is great. So there's a lot of different things, but I think with the peer support programs now, and being in your face is super awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Are there any kind of like how Alcoholics Anonymous have the second half of the name? Are there any anonymous like support groups for first responders that you know of, or has somebody thought of that yet? Or
yes, me.
you?
So when I was in treatment, I called it a first responder liaison, and I had come up with a game plan of like in treatment, like, so I took it to the owner of this treatment center. I still have the email. It's funny. I'm like, that's awesome. So I'm like, I created like this whole like program to be that support, especially for those that come into treatment, and take them to some meetings, take them out to lunch, take them, just be a support, and then, maybe facilitate a group to be able to like engage them and bring them together and have that camaraderie and what support groups do. So I actually started to do that. Today, I do have a support group, first responder. It started off as a 12-step. Now it's just us coming together and talking about solution, talking about life.
Is that an in-person or a Zoom? Or?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have virtual and in-person. And so I've
Same
been doing
meeting,
that.
or you do one virtual? And
No,
one
no,
in-person?
it's all same.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been doing that like a couple years now. It's been a while.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
How many people are in there?
You know, right now it's just a handful. There's not a whole lot, but we've had 15, 20, and then you know we've had some military personnel come in, which is super awesome. That it's got some of that recognition. So that's cool when they come in and yeah. So it's been there's we need more. We need more, right? Yeah. So I think there's a 12-step AA meeting for fire and police in Long Beach on Monday nights. That's probably one of the bigger ones. But yeah, they're few and far between. But
So
yeah.
they're out there.
Yeah, but they are out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I got two more questions to kind of wrap up. Number
All right.
one.
Yeah, I know I took us everywhere on a
that was
weird
beautiful.
little journey.
No,
but
it was beautiful. Thank you for all that and for being so open. But here's my question: what do you tell a young 20-something-year-old first responder, fireman, policeman that's going to see a lot of the things you saw? What do you tell that guy? What kind of advice do you give that guy to make sure that they're staying current and keeping up with their mental state and not just bottling all that stuff in?
Man, yeah, definitely the approach is gonna be key, because I look at that 20-year-old me, and nothing, you know, made of steel. Nothing's going to break. I would tell them that they want a full career, that they're going to have to maintain some things to support that. And if they're going to do whatever it takes to get into a career, to like find this, just a job, right? Because it's a job. And they want to do it successfully, there's got to be stages and places, like stages of their career, time-wise, and places that they go to talk, to unload, to get shown coping skills. Because when you get taught some of these coping skills, they seem really, really simple, right? So we overlook them. And these coping skills have to build traction. So now I don't meditate all the time, but when I do, it's enough where it's like, boom, it hits, right? Body is down to baseline, super calm, sleep tonight. So it's going to take time, right, to adjust and acclimate to this different thing. So I would suggest to them that just try to look what's going to fit with them, but look to something that's going to sustain the beautiful career that they are going after with everything they got, with help therapeutically and holistically.
Love it.
Yeah, so I'd probably give them some examples of what those look like, just to test them out.
Sure.
But I'd also probably really give them like a dark image of my story and go, that's not you. Well, it could be.
Right.
So these are ways to like let it not be.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And last question, what do you tell that first responder that's maybe in their career or retired, that's at that point that you were at where you tried to drink yourself to death and doesn't know where to turn, what to do? What do you tell that guy?
You know, it's, well, that guy was me. We went to dinner a couple months ago. It was a friend's birthday. And I live in downtown San Clemente. So we went to a restaurant, and my friend, she had her other girlfriends there, and we were all getting introduced. And they're like, oh, what do you do? And what do you do? You know? And my friend's like, oh, he was a firefighter. She's like, oh, my dad's a firefighter. He's been in for like 30 years, and I already know. I'm like, okay. She's like, he sits in his little recliner and drinks like a lot. And he kind of shakes. He's never told Mom and I any of the stories, but I would imagine like a 30-plus career, you guys see a lot, but I'm worried. because he says that his mind won't shut down, and it gets kind of loud, and I don't understand that. And I'm like, So there's been so I actually just checked up on her and her dad, and he doesn't think there's anything like this out there like I did. He doesn't think that there's people like me talking about it. He does, so he's lost, right? And the best way, I think, for somebody in that retired stage of the game, and as we continue to bring awareness, and bring more awareness and lessen the stigma, that hopefully it starts to reach some of us older cats, to know that, you know what, I don't have to like sit here and wilt away with all of what's happened, because the body, their book out there, Body Keeps the Score. And they're looking at PTSD and trauma. The science, if you have a physical concussion, looks the exact same way as if you have trauma. So, and there's healing for that. But you're in this stage where you've had to do this career kind of by yourself, emotionally and mentally. And so in that lost period, I would definitely like to let them know that they're not alone. They need to try to hopefully be open to finding circles like us, that there is hope, there is healing. And then again, like, there's nothing more powerful than our experience and our story to try to engage and let him know even more of kind of where I was at, to be able to overcome and live such an amazing life now. The hypervigilance is still there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same impact. The calls that I went on that I remember them. And the smells come sometimes, but they don't have the impact. And today there's relief. And today it's amazing. So, but like with anything, right? Anything well earned.
There's a lot of hope in your story, and thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
That
I
was
appreciate
beautiful.
you, Chris.
All
Thank
right,
you for having me on.
All right, brother.